thank you all for joining. This is going to be a very community-focused call. What we've got here to show you today is the MHCP GitHub workshop, which is a session where we'll go hands-on and go to the GitHub where we can all contribute our documents and any kind of documentation around Horizon systems or tips and tricks and things like that, and we'll find all the places where we can find like different categories where we can place our different types of documents, and everybody's invited to do it. Thank you for coming to this workshop. We're going to go step by step looking at how to contribute, and it will be as so actually hopefully it's quite easy for you. What I do want everybody to do is, if you can, be working side by side with us while we do it, so we can just see where if there's any pain points where you might be running into that. With me today, well, I'm Tellous, and with me today is Shards.
Hello.
Yes, we will be talking through this. We'll mostly be kind of jumping back and forth in concepts and stuff like that. So what do we got today? We're going to be covering forking a repository, committing changes, and pull request approvals, and then we'll go into a Q&A. I know those sound pretty crazy right now, but luckily, I'll have a definitions slide here to help walk you through some of these terms that may feel unfamiliar, and you will have mastered by the end of this workshop. So from a skills matrix alignment, we MHCP mentors, we love to show you this part because we love to have you focus on your goals. Luckily, when it comes to GitHub and documentation, that's everything, right? Anything can be documented, anything can be covered. So this is the place to, the GitHub will be the place to find anything and everything related to these topics. So if they're not there now, make them, right? That's an opportunity. That's a space to make a difference and help the rest of the community. So
You can document the process by which you build art, like how to make good models, how to make sure that they're going to be performing well. So utterly otter, that I think. Like the design and creation of how to use the Gen AI tools, for instance. You could imagine documents for that.
that's exactly right. So
I mean, I think the idea is for this GitHub repo, it's a community resource where people who have insights into how to do any aspect of the skills that we need in order to build worlds could write a document and share their knowledge with the rest of the community in a centralized location where other people will know, like, hey, I am wondering about how to do something. Let me go check the GitHub document repository to see if someone's written up a helpful how-to or something on this particular aspect of the system, or ways of thinking about game design or things like that.
that's exactly right. So if you have any particular affinity towards anything, lean on your strengths, make those shine in our shared community GitHub.
Additionally, like, it's difficult to keep things up to date because, as everybody is aware, Horizon Worlds changes fairly frequently. There are new features that need documentation that maybe the documentation that we got from Meta is not super digestible for everybody, and somebody can like remix that documentation to be a little bit more approachable. And so this would be a place where we definitely get constant new content being added about new features. Additionally, there are other GitHub repos about workarounds, which is not this particular one I don't think we're talking about now, but they do exist also. And I think that's also an area where people who are dealing with workarounds for bugs that haven't been fixed or don't look like they're going to be fixed because that's just the way the system works, contributing people's knowledge to that code, that base of documentation as well, can be very, very valuable so that other people aren't wandering in the dark trying to figure out how to get around some problem because there's a workarounds documentation repo also.
Exactly. And so we'll make you touched on the workaround stock. I'll show that how those are connected as well. That's to say that, even though we're going to be looking at the world's documentation repository, there can be other repositories that live by side, and we'll just find, cases where that makes sense to do. And sometimes we might merge and sometimes we might separate. So that's what's great about this space. It's super flexible, and you have people like me and Shards looking over it to make sure that it's working for everybody. So let's talk Git words here. Do you want to take this, Shards?
Sure, I can talk about this.
Sweet.
So it might be useful to share the link to the Git repo so people can sort of see, or maybe just switch quickly over to what the Git repo looks like, like the MHCP creators world documentation. So just to sort of give people familiarity, I'm not sure how many people are familiar with GitHub, but this is the GitHub web interface. And this is basically showing you in the upper left, it's MHCP creators. That's the owner of this particular repo, and the repo's name is world's documentation. So this repo is owned by MHCP creators. People are not able to edit this repo directly. There's only a limited number of people who are allowed to contribute directly to this repo because we're trying to keep it under control of some editorial control on it. But there is this button. So the way that you usually work with GitHub repos is you make your own copy of the repo. You have to have a GitHub account for that, which I think many people do already. But if you don't, you just have to sign up for a GitHub account, and it's really easy. Once you have a GitHub account, you'll be able to make copies of other people's repos that then you'll have your own sort of copy that you can make changes to independently of the main one. So you can have it as like a scratch space where you can work on improving documents, making changes, checkpointing your changes and saving them back into your copy of the repo. And then once you've worked on getting your changes all spiffed up and you're ready to share them back, then you can request to share them back to the main repo, and so that they get incorporated back into the main document. So the
If I
very
could jump in
first,
for a quick second, though, I do want to pause you. Sorry, Shards. I just want to mention one thing. We've been saying repo very often. I did mention in the chat that this is a very non-technical thing. So I want to set the stage as far as what repo is here, as far as what we're going to understand it to be, is simply just where files are saved. So this is just a website where files are being stored, and that's what we will continue referring to as a repo. So you take it from there, Shards.
yeah, so repo means repository. It's short for repository. It's just a storage location for stuff. And this repo is called world's documentation, and it's owned by MHCP creators. So the first step when you're going to contribute to someone else's repo is that you'll want to make your own copy of it. And that's called forking. And so what you're basically doing is it's like a fork in the road. Like that repo you're going to be contributing to, it's going to continue on with its own evolution, and you're going to take a fork, you're going to take a copy of it, and you're going to evolve it in a different way. So the first step is that you will fork the repo. Well, I think we'll go through all these steps in a little bit in a demo to work through all the steps for people. But just to talk through it, you're going to fork the repo to make your own copy. Then you're going to make changes in your own copy. You're then going to commit those changes back to your own copy of the repo. And then when you're done with that, you're going to request that those changes get pulled into the main repo that you forked from originally. So these are the Git terms. Fork is making a copy to work on separately. There's 2 steps for cloning and pulling, which are optional. If you want to bring those, you can do all of this stuff directly on GitHub, but if you want to bring those files down to your machine so that you can use your special desktop editors on it, if you want to use VS Code, for instance, to edit the files rather than editing them directly in GitHub, you can clone the repo down to your local machine, and then you can pull the files down to your local machine. But those are optional steps. You can actually just edit everything directly on on GitHub in your fork. For Samson, you can't create branches of the main repo, the MHCP creators repo. You don't have write permission there. I mean, you could pull down a copy of it and you could make branches, but I don't think we're going to allow anybody to push anything back up to it. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make a fork first to have your own copy, so that then you can commit those changes. And you can use a branch if you want in your fork, but I don't think branching is really necessary. I mean, that's like yet another GitHub term that we could talk about, which is branching. But I don't think we really need to use branches. What we do expect you to do is to create your PRs back to the main branch of the main repo. So that's a little bit extra, and we'll get to that when we do a demo of that. So anyway, you're going to make your changes, the files, you're going to commit them into GitHub, and then you're going to make a pull request to ask those changes to be merged into the main website. And that last step is where somebody from like the MHCP mentors team will get involved, review your changes, possibly make requests that you edit things or change things or make the terms more clear, or like, fix spelling mistakes or whatever, and then once you've got it all approved, then it will get merged into the main website.
Awesome.
Anything you want to add about that, Tellous?
I just want to jump right into it. That's what I want to do.
Okay.
So,
all right. Do you want to go look at the docs and yeah?
Yeah, let's do it. So we've got on the actual GitHub repo itself, which I see, Jules, you shared that second link. That's github.com/mhcp creator/worlds-documentation. That's this page that I'm looking at right now. So on this page right here, you can just scroll down and see this README section below, right? And so you can start to read through it, where you can see the first thing here is a link to the actual website where the documentation is hosted, and we can go and take a look at that and see, this is where you can like read through some of these categories and see, do any of these links kind of catch your eye? There are these links here at the top, which you can get this like alternate view, allows you to search. There are the different categories that you can expand and see if there's anything, interesting, worthwhile for you, for what you're trying to accomplish. And then we just have some additional links to some of like the other popular spaces, like the meta docs, right? The meta learn site, the creator manual, which is hosted similarly in another repository, where you can sort of click into the files and see what
There's
all
a
is going.
PDF in there. I think you have to view the PDF of that because the Markdown in that is not GitHub compatible.
That's
But
fair.
the PDF
So
is the latest version of it.
yeah, if you're not familiar with the creator manual, it's this line right here. I'll just open it briefly so you can start to see how that looks. Lots of
Very long document.
huge, yeah, huge table of
It's
contents,
200
basically.
pages long.
Yeah, but highly recommend downloading that, having that on your local machine, reading through it whenever you've got some downtime. So we've got the forums link here, which continue to use to meet and share ideas with the rest of the community. And then finally, we have this link to contribute here, which all it is a oh, that's the wrong video, but that's okay. Right here we can see a link to the repository home. When you click on that, takes you right back to where we started, right? So this is that README section below here. This is actually the video that you're going to want to watch. This is the video that will basically be exactly what we're covering right now. So if you need that for reference, you see that it's here on this GitHub repository. Okay, so prerequisites. If you are currently not seeing that you are signed in while you're on GitHub right now, please go quickly make a GitHub account. It should be really quick, so I'm not going to wait for you. No, I'm just kidding. Take your time. Get your GitHub account and then come right back here, and we'll keep on looking through this. So we got familiarity with Markdown syntax.
There's other uses for GitHub accounts too. Like if you're using VS Code and you want to do live sharing of your screen of your code with multiple different people, so you can like co-edit. If you have a GitHub account, you'll need a GitHub account or a Microsoft account in order to do that. So might as well just set up a GitHub account so you can also do live sharing with VS Code.
Great. Yeah, great call. So highly recommend making that account, or else you're going to be really stuck for the rest of this workshop as well. So familiarity with Markdown syntax, I'd say the familiarity needs to be at least like, notice that the text that is being written from page to page is not just simply text, right? You'll see a little number sign, or you'll see dashes, or you just see extra lines and things like that. Luckily, while you're making your file, you have these like settings to be able to write, to be able to change the formatting of text and make lists and stuff like that. So it has selectable things in the editor that should help you on this front too. Just notice that it's not just words. And then
And
last
so,
thing, oh, go ahead. Yeah.
and one thing with the Markdown syntax, like, so this file that's called README here, this is, if you scroll up a little bit, this is the same thing as the readme.md. This is actually written in Markdown. So this content you see there is actually, like, you can just go back and forth between, like, this is the Markdown code, and this is the preview of the Markdown for the README. So even the README itself is written in Markdown.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can kind of see how things were done and what different kinds of little Markdown syntaxes do when they get drawn.
Right. So plenty of examples, right? As especially if you're looking at the code of the other pages that have already been checked in, you can start to connect the dots as far as like this is what this looks like when it has this little symbol next to it. But yeah, nothing too crazy. Also, by the way, during the pull request phase, meaning the approval portion of the step, you know, me and Shards might, recommend some formatting suggestions too. So, the more we practice in that space too, you'll start to connect the dots as well of things that you'll have done before even asking for it to be approved. So I keep saying me and Shards, but I think there's other people involved too. So just know that you're not completely bottlenecked by me and Shards. So the procedure here, so the process of contributing documentation is broken down into two main phases, which is the initial step, the one-time process to prepare your environment, and then the second phase, which is the contribution workflow, which is the step-by-step, the set of steps that you follow each time you want to add or update documentation. So let's look at the initial step. Very short section here. Basically, for this, you're just clicking the fork button, right? You have your GitHub account and you are on this page already. So you're at the GitHub repository you need to be at. That's this first step here, right? You're navigating to the main page of the original upstream repository on GitHub. That's this project. And on the top right corner of the page, you'll click the fork button. So let's all join in and do that. I want to see that number like go way high if you haven't already clicked it. So click it here. And let me click back so we can keep looking at some info here. Let's bring it back to where we were, right here. Okay. So I just clicked the fork button and it brought me to this page. Here it says, if prompted, which we are, select your GitHub account as a destination for the fork. So here I'm going to pick me. It's already me. And the name here is World's Documentation. Cool. From here, I can just click Create Fork. Oh,
You need to.
Oh, fork already exists.
You
Let's
already
call
have
it.
an exist under your name, unfortunately. Yeah. I don't think you create
Who
multiple
knew I
forks.
might try? Okay, well then let me go delete it real quick. You'll get to see how to delete it, I guess.
Not
World's
that one.
documentation. Imagine. Just delete the snippets repo. So here, I can delete.
It's like at the
So
bottom, and it's like you're gonna have to, like,
you got to beg it
you gotta,
to
like,
delete.
it really doesn't want to let you delete it because it's destructive.
And then we'll just do a quick little authentication here.
Yeah, they make it very difficult to delete your code accidentally.
So if you ever like wake up one morning, your code's deleted, just think about what your choices were the night before. Might be related. So let's refresh here and see if we can get, cool, great.
Yeah.
Now it's available. And I'll create the fork. And here it says you'll be redirected to your newly created fork.
And so notice in the upper right, like, it says Tellous/World's Documentation. So, like, this is the same World's Documentation repo as before, but now it's owned by Tellus. So this is Tellus's own copy. And if you can see underneath the world's documentation public. It says forked from MHCP creators. And this is like telling you like where this came from. So you are like a fork off of the main documentation, and it knows that this is from where this came from, which is important later when you want to contribute the changes back.
Yep. Great. So let's keep going here. So now that I've got my own copy of this world, or of this world, look at that's crazy, of this repository, we can enter into the second phase of procedures here, right? So we've got the contribution workflow, right? So this is the one that I will follow over and over again as I keep making documents, as I keep making changes, right? Edits, updates, whatever. So, it's not only about just making new documents. Some stuff needs to be maintained. Some stuff might just be outdated, needs to get purged. So everybody can have a hand in helping on that front. And so, yeah, let's read through here. So we've got, we're going to follow these steps. We've got our first step here, which is to add or edit documentation files. I'm going to go about adding a document. And so here it talks about that, crucially, place your files into the correct category as detailed in the table below. If you're unsure about a category, please consult with project maintainers before proceeding. So, feel free to post about it in the forums or Discord or whatever you have access to. And one of us will see it. I guarantee it. So the categories that we have already available, those were those ones that you saw here in when I click Creator Docs here, the nav bar or the navigation bar here. This list here correlates to this list here. So if you want it in one of these dropdowns, you just pick one of these categories, and I'll show you how you quote unquote pick it. Let's go back to my copy and continue reading here. So here, first step is verify you're in your forked repository. To Shard's point, right, is check that top left corner. Is your name there? If you're there, great. Let's go here. And so right now it's kind of collapsed because it's in like this smaller view, but let me spread it open a bit to see if we can get it's okay. The screenshot shows add file, but it's just this plus right here. So we can press the plus button and we can so let's keep reading. So it says using the table above, identify the appropriate category for a new file, navigate to this folder if it doesn't exist. Navigate to this folder. If it doesn't exist, GitHub allows you to create a new folder, new category by adding it to the name. So we can either, go straight to the folder that we want to work with, which would be in this docs folder here, right? Here are the different folder categories. Or we can just press add, create new file from the front and just make sure you copy over the folder name that you're trying to put something into. So let's say I wanted to use gizmos, right? I put gizmos here and then I put a /. That's how you can do it through the name. Like how do you pick a category is you write it in the name like this and put a / and you get added to that, or you go directly into that folder, excuse me, and add it. So let's try it that way. I'm going to discard these changes too, so you can see those two alternate ways of adding things. So I'm in the gizmos folder and I press here there's like a 3 dots button. You can do create new file. So here you see I'm already in the gizmos. So, I'm realizing that docs portion is an important detail there too. So it needs to be docs / the category / the name of your file. So let's call it test. I just you see that habit? I wrote TS, but it is a markdown file. So in here,
make sure to put the .md ending on because that tells GitHub the type of file it is.
Yeah, and you can see that here. You'll see it here as an example too. You see your file.md. You'll see it here in this next part where it says if creating a new file, enter your name for your file. Here it says new guide.md. So plenty of spaces where it's reminding you to put MD. So hopefully you remember. Here it says write or paste your markdown content into the editor. So let's maximize this view for a second. Okay, so in here, we can we can start if we wanted to like code the markdown right here, I could, if I know it, I can just write the things that I know, right? Test thing 1, thing 2. And so that's one way to go about it. But there is another way, and I will show you that now. So you can, if you know Markdown, go ahead and start writing. If not, open up a Google Doc like this. Open up a Google Doc, blank Google Doc, nothing on it. If I want to try heading 1 and say like some content, and I add another heading, let's say 3 notes, blah, blah. Here, let's do a list. Let's do like thing, 3. Okay, actually all caps thing like this. Great. So this is just a Google Doc that has some level of formatting. I can do file, download, markdown. That's file, download, markdown. And if I were to like open this file in my like code editor, I can see that it applied markdown to the, to the things that I have here. Let's go look at what that looks like when I paste that into, or well, first I want to show you the, the previous thing I did, right? So that was me if I know it. And here, let's paste it from the downloaded version and see what it looks like, right? So the preview is going to be your best friend here to make sure that nothing is rendering weird or, it's accidentally like the markdown doesn't have a space or anything like that. You can verify that with this preview button, right? Let's head back over, or let's pull this off to the side one more time and keep on.
So
Go ahead.
yeah, so this is an excellent way of contributing docs because you can stay entirely within the web browser when you're doing your authoring of your docs or editing of the docs and contributing the docs. You have to sort of toggle back and forth between edit and preview to see what it's looking like. A slightly more advanced workflow would be to like bring this into VS Code by bringing it locally to your machine. And then you can do like side by side like that, where it's like live previewing it as you're editing it. But that's like the next level, which is like to do live previewing in VS Code, because VS Code knows how to render GitHub Markdown.
Sweet. Thanks for that. That was yeah, you can see, some things kind of don't line up as expected. So just be cautious of the markdown you're using, always preview. But great, yeah. So anybody's feeling brave, do it that way. You saw what I did, right? I just got the Google Doc, downloaded it. It was in my downloads folder. When I clicked it open, it opens in my code editor, right? If you don't currently have a code editor, Visual Studio Code is often what we use to script in Horizon Worlds. So that's a highly recommended, super lightweight, super easy to use code editor. For the most part, you just have to click your code file and it opens right to it. So enjoy that. Have fun with that. Let's keep on going here. So what do we have next? So this part, it talks about editing an existing file. And then there's a portion that talks about using like adding YouTube videos. I'm going to skip those two for now and I'll come right back to them because I want to jump right over to this section here, which is committing your changes, right? We talked about that one of the definitions. For the fork, we talked about copying your repository, right? Copying and saving to your space. Now we're making changes and we want to save those changes, right? That's what commit means in this case. So here we see that after creating, uploading, or editing, we can press the commit changes button. So let's press that, see what we get. So basically, you can add a message. The 50 to 72 characters is a nice sweet spot to be around. If you need more details, you add those here in this extended description. And then here I added this like good commit message practice is to start with a prefix indicating type. This is kind of a preference thing. I'm open to any way that works as long as it works and it's consistent. Then we'll do it, right? But if you want to like, say that you're
I definitely
adding.
would. I think a concise description is really important for commit messages because eventually these end up in like a change log, and it's nice to be able to read through the change log, have a really good concise message title for the commit, and a good description of the details of what changed in the commit. Because when you're looking at the change log, you'll see the commit messages one after another. And if you click into them, it's good to be able to see an extended description that like talks about anything, sophisticated, clever, complicated, or detailed that you had to change.
Exactly. So here I might say add a placeholder text for the workshop session. Great. And so here on this next step, it's talking about ensuring that it's committing to your main branch. That's this selection right here. So as long as that's set, then you can just press commit and boom. And so that saves our changes, right? So if we're going through this quickly, basically we fork our repo, we go make a new file, copy and paste our markdown, commit our change, and that's as far as we've gotten so far. So next is going to be the pull
You've committed
request.
the changes to your copy of
Mhm.
the documentation, not to the main copy yet.
Exactly. Here you can actually see a sort of message telling you the way you can read this this little notification here is saying that your code is ahead of the main repository, right? Sometimes somebody else might have checked something in and you might be wondering whether that might run into any issues or not. There's a section we'll go over to here later in the doc for that. But this kind of message is kind of giving you a heads up that uh, you've got the latest and greatest and you have new stuff to contribute. So going on to the pull request side of things, basically saying after you've commit your changes, you can navigate to the main page of your forked repository. So
Or
go.
right there,
Mhm.
you can do it. I think you can just click contribute right there, right?
Nice. Yeah. That can update that. So yeah, so you can click that there. I'll put in a new tab the other, in case you walked away, you went to get a coffee and then you came back and you forgot that you can just press contribute, which is probably going to be my real life at some point. If you come back to your main page, right? This pop up from the other one is also on this one here too, right? Also on your homepage. It's kind of like trying to get you to send your stuff. It's trying to notify you as much as possible to send your stuff over, right? So let's go to this one and we'll click it. It's all the same, right? I'll click it over here too. It's the same pop-up basically saying, hey, we're ready to go. But alternatively, if this wasn't here, that's this point right here, you can always click this pull request button here and create a new pull request. It's a little more manual, uh, but you're going to see the same things you're about to see when you click this open pull request button from the little pop-up thing. It fills out some important details like the a title. It gives you a description. It's seeing that, like in my case, I only had one commit, so it's being helpful in sort of like simplifying this portion of it. Basically, this pull request page is to give the approvers, the maintainers, the other MHCP mentors, the most amount of context possible so that they can approve your changes, right? This is the place to do it. In your commit message, you can be, more focused on the like actual literal changes, but here you can add way more detail around the context of why you might be trying to do something. Maybe you're introducing a new category. Maybe you are looking for specific feedback too before it gets approved. This is the place to do it. You add that in this description here. So I might say, hey, space glitter unicorn, can you double check my shaders, my horizon shaders document? And you get ready for it. You won't know this, but you're about to get a big old unapproved. But that's okay. That's the part of the process of learning what is and isn't possible, and having the conversation with mentors who have seen we've seen a lot of what Horizon has to offer. So lean on us for helping you iron out your details as well too. So here we have the description section, the title. Here you can assign specific people. I don't think it may not show. If it doesn't show, that's okay. When you go to send the pull request, we're getting notified regardless. So you can just create this pull request from here.
So
Let's keep
before you
using the
click
reason.
create,
Mhm.
like that line that's right at the top of the screen, this is like the really important line. This is basically
Yes.
saying we are going to request a merge from the thing on the right to the thing on the left. And so the thing on the right is like your repository, Tellous Worlds documentation, and it's the main branch of your personal repository. And you're wanting to merge it into the base repository, which is the MHCP Creators World documents, also into the main branch of that that repo. So this is just, it should fill this out correctly, but like this is what it should look like. If it doesn't, make sure it looks like this.
Yeah, and more importantly, I want to well, I mean, equally importantly, I want to also highlight that the fact that that point he's making right now is this step 4 right here on the README. So it talks about that idea. It breaks down the fact that it should be this your repository main branch, their repository main branch, right? So this says GitHub usually selects it correctly if you use the contribute button from your fork. If not, the drop-down menus are there to select the correct repositories and branches. In the video, supporting video for this document, I mentioned that if you are using a branching method because you're more advanced, to just like remember to not leave that portion out, that it needs to end up in the main branch of the MHCP creators side. So excellent. We've got our title, we've got our description. So we're basically ready to
if you scroll down before you click pull request, like if you scroll down this below this little section where you're filling out the description and the title and everything, it's going to show all of the files you're changing and all of the delta, all the changes you're making to existing files. Here, they're all pluses. These are all new things that are being added. But if we do a workflow where we're changing something, you might see some minuses for things that are being deleted and pluses for things that are being added and blanks for things that are being unchanged.
Exactly. Right. So we can also, yeah, so that's right. So right. That's the next.
So just before you
there's
hit
another
pull
view.
request, just to verify that you've got the right stuff before you make the pull request, and then it's going to send messages to the mentors to like start doing things.
Right, because some of us might jump right onto it and then be missing some additional context. So if that happens, though, let's press create pull request and see where we end up. Right. So this page here, this is like a place to have conversations. Right here, we see a comment section. Main thing you can find is that same thing Shards was just talking about. There's a tab for that, so you can see all the different files that were changed if there was more than one. I will say for now, ignore this big red X DCO. That's just a policy thing in the way you can commit like your files. It like has a particular way that it would prefer people do it, but it's okay. We'll generally know who you are and what you're trying to accomplish with the files that are changed, and we don't have to worry too much about malicious actors in this space since we're doing a thorough review of that. And most of you will be consuming the content by going to the website, right? So you're not running any scripts on your computer or running any weird stuff. And if at any point you see something like that, that is not sanctioned. That would not have made it through. It needs to come from the Meta Learn site if it's going to be like that. From our side, we probably won't approve anything like that. That makes people have to download something and run it on their machine. So just giving you all the peace of mind on that front. So we'll have received notifications telling us that you have this pull request ready to go. You can continue making changes if you wanted to. It will make it a little bit difficult to if we see a last minute change right when we approve, that might trigger some red flags and stuff like that. And so try to be as hands off as possible once you've reached this stage, unless you're being requested by like one of the maintainers that they might be giving you direct feedback of like, hey, could you please go do a spell check on this document or something. Then consider making those changes as well as any auxiliary changes that you thought of later on in that moment where you know that somebody has sort of thrown it back over the fence to you, and that'll keep everything nice and smooth. So at this point, I'm not going to actually like approve it or anything like that, but I just want to show you what the last thing you will see before it's in the website will be this page with a big approved symbol up here in the top left corner. But yeah, so that is, that's basically the contribution flow. That's it. This additional piece right here about keeping your fork up to date, that's just if you are on your homepage and the main repository has been receiving new documentation contributions, you're going to get a little notification here saying that you should probably, sync it to pull those changes in so you can see them or even edit them on your local copy. That's what the sync fork is going to refer to. Besides that, down here we've got an FAQ section. Happy to keep filling that out as I start to notice trends and questions. But yeah, that is note. The README itself is a file that can be updated and contributed to by creators. So if you feel any gravity towards any of the sections there that you feel need edits, you saw the flow of how you can make that contribution. So please do. Please feel free to. So that is the whole shebang, right? So let's go back. Is there any other points you want to make, Shards, before I?
Yeah, so I think that when you were looking at that, I think it was going to allow you to merge because you're actually an owner, you're actually a contributor on the main repo, but other people won't see that ability. If you go to MHCP creators worlds documentation,
You're saying
if you go to if you go to pull requests, like at the squash and merge, I mean, could you click on that? Is that clickable for you? Yeah, so I think that other people are not going to be able to squash and merge because it's not approved yet, because we have branch control on the main branch. That will be grayed out or something, waiting for approval before they'll be able to click that button. But since you're a contributor to the MHCP creators, you have that available to you.
Excellent, understood. So right, so on your screen you may be seeing, yeah, basically like a grayed out
something that says like can't merge or something like that. I don't remember what exactly it says. Waiting for approval. I don't know what it says, but
excellent.
I do want to mention that once you create this pull request from your main branch to the main documentation website, any additional check-ins that you make to your main branch will get automatically added to this pull request. So that does mean that you don't want to work on multiple different doc changes at the same time in the same branch from your side. Like if you, for some reason, are going to be changing 2 different docs in 2 different areas, you will want to learn about branching workflows so that you can make different work branches in your copy of the repo for each of those doc changes. And then you will make 2 different pull requests, one from each of your branches into the main repo, so that you can work on those doc changes independently, because you can imagine that there might be different reviewers for those 2 different documents, or one of them might be like good to go and the other one needs a lot of edits. So like if you have 2 different kind of document updates you're doing, you're going to want to learn about branching workflows so that you can keep them in separate PRs.